Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
She's asked to tell us. I'll drop the mic to you so that the board can have it. I'll get this one to you.
Good evening. We're going to read from Virasat. Virasat follows the misfortunes of the Deshpande family. This is just a synopsis, so you understand the context. It follows the misfortunes of the Deshpande family, once an aristocratic family in feudal Maharashtra, now caught between penury and memories of a golden past. We have selected the extract where the current matriarch, Amma, debates with her daughter Prabha about the family's traditional values versus Prabha's bid for freedom from the shackles of the past. The scene transitions into one between Amma's son Bhaskar and his wife Bhabi, where tradition takes on a new meaning. The readers are I, Kepani, Sohila Kapoor, Prabha, Aarti Nair, Bhaskar, Neeraj Yadav, and Bhabi Jyotsna Sharma. Burhan Qureshi operates the sound, directed by Sohila Kapoor. Acknowledgement, Anuradha Dhar. It's a 3 Arts Club and Katyayani presentation. बरामदे में अंधेरा, बीच वाले कमरे में उजाला। अम्मा और प्रभा लेटी हुई हैं। प्रभा का हिलता बदन देखते ही लगता है कि रो रही है। अम्मा उठती है। प्रभा, प्रभा, क्या हुआ?
कुछ नहीं।
अरे इस तरफ मुंह कर।
तुम सो अम्मा।
रोई मती बेटी। ए रोई मती, मेरी तरफ देख।
अम्मा, हमारा क्या होगा?
जो भगवान चाहेगा।
तुमने तो जमीन ही दे डाली।
प्रभा,
मैं क्या अपने ही घर में मैं पराई होकर रहेगी?
क्या करती? तू ही बता।
भोली हो तुम।
वो ही सही। मेरे एक सवाल का जवाब दे तू। बच्चों का जी दुखा के मैं कहाँ जाती? तू क्या ये समझती है जो चल रहा है? जब तक तेरे पिता जिंदे थे तब तक बात और थी। देख पढ़ा, तेरे को भी बधाई दे रहे हैं। तू सिर पीटना बंद कर दे। मेरा राज खत्म हो गया, अब राज तेरी भाभियों का है। सो समझ के रह। तू कल को कहेगी तुम बीच में पढ़ो तो बताई देती हो कि नहीं पढ़ूंगी जरा भी। आखिर वो ही करता धरता है। अब बचे कुछ दिन मेरे को उन्हीं के संग काटना है। अब तू भी कैसे बोलती है चिटपिटी की नाई? ये अच्छा नहीं है।
एक नंबर के स्वार्थी है साहब।
स्वार्थ से कोई को छुट्टी मिली है कभी? चाहो चाहे ना चाहो, जब आदमी गिरस्ती रचता है ना तो आप ही स्वार्थी हो जाता है। प्रभा,
तुम तो करोगी ही तरफदारी अपनी बहू बेटों की।
जो चाहे के लिए हो, चाहे स्वार्थी ही के लिए हो, बहू बेटन से बिगाड़ करके नहीं चलेगा। हाँ
अम्मा, मुझे पढ़ने दो, कम से कम भी तो कर लेने दो।
मेरे हाथ में क्या है?
किसी तरह हॉस्टल के मेरे 4 साल निभा दो।
तेरे पिता जिंदा थे ना, तब भी इतनी आजादी नहीं थी मेरे को कि कोई को कुछ उठा के दे देवे। अब तो पूरी ताबेदारी में ही हूँ।
कब तक सहोगी? कितना सहोगी? एक दिन ऐसा नहीं गुजरा कभी कि तात्या जी ने तुम्हें जली कटी न सुनाई हो। मन में कब तक दबा के रखोगी?
बेटी, दुख दिखाने की चीज है कहा, अपना अपने ही में रखे रहना चाहिए। जब भौती हो जाए ना, तो इस हवेली में कई कई अंधेरी कुठरियां हैं, जहाँ जाके चुप्पे चुप्पे आंसू गिराना चाहिए। देश पांडु की लुगाइयन ने यही करा।
मैं नहीं करूंगी, मैं अपना सुख पाके रहूंगी, तुम्हारा तुम्हें दिलवा के रहूंगी।
प्रभा, जब सुख नहीं मिला तब मैंने खुद होके सुख को विदा करके संतोष पाया। जो मिला ही नहीं उसे दूर करना ही अच्छा।
मुझे पढ़ने दो अम्मा, अपने पांवों पर खड़ा होने दो मुझे। हम दोनों अलग रहेंगे, किसी की मोहताज न रहेंगे। मुझे अमरावती जाने दो।
भास्कर क्या कहेगा?
कहने दो जो चाहे। तुम समझती क्यों नहीं हो? ये लोग तुम्हारे खून की एक एक बूंद चूस लेंगे और बाद में घूरे में डाल देंगे। आज इसलिए पूछते हैं कि तुम खटती रहती हो, कल को जब तुम्हारे हाथ पांव साफ नहीं होंगे तो तुम क्या करोगे? दोनों अपनी बीवी के, अपने बच्चों के पार देखने को तैयार नहीं।
यार, हमेशा आगे कोई दौड़ता है प्रभा। मुझे कोई से कुछ नहीं चाहिए। परमेश्वर जितने जल्दी उठा ले जाए उतना ही अच्छा, बस। अरे मेरे प्राण तो चंदू में अटके हैं री। ढोर की नाई खटता रहता है बेचारा, ना पढ़ लिख पाया, ना शादी ब्याह हो पाया। कोई नहीं है उसका अपना। तेरी नहीं हुई तो वो भी रह गया। कल को दुखे पिराए हारी बीमारी से घिर जाए तो उसी की चिंता खाई जाती है।
अम्मा, मेरा कौन है?
प्रभा, हमने सच्ची तेरी बहुत ही नुकसान करी। सब भाइयों में तू ही सबसे होशियार। तेरे को पढ़ने का चाव, तय उनका स्वभाव कोई की चलने ही न दे। यही जिद, लड़की की जात का करेगी पढ़ लिख के। कितना समझाया मैंने, भगवान की सौगंध। जमाना बदल गया। कितनी छोड़ियां तेरे बराबर की पढ़ लिख के आगे बढ़ गई, नौकरी करती हैं, आज कमा रही हैं, अच्छा लगता है। तब हम लेवाते के अकली नहीं थी।
कितने साल तक तात्या जी ने मुझसे बोलना बंद कर दिया था। मैंने उनका नए लड़के नाम मंजूर कर दिए थे। इतनी सी बात पर अम्मा, तुम्हें बताओ कैसे थे वे लड़के? सब हमारे जैसे खोखले रईस, बेपढ़े लिखे लतखोरे।
प्रभा, नाराज होके तेरे से बोलना बंद कर दिया, ये बात झूठी।
मेरे सामने से उठ के चला जाए करे तात्या जी।
तेरे को का बताए छोरी, तेरे सामने मारे शर्म के ठौर ना पाया करे वे। मेरे से कहा करे, लड़की की जिंदगी चौपट करके धर दी। मेरे को सुगंध नहीं मिलेगी। आंखें में ढरका लगाए रहे उनके, का फायदा। ये 1000-2000 में लग जाएगा तेरा।
क्या?
तेरी पढ़ाई लिखाई?
अम्मा, 1000-2000 में आजकल क्या होता है?
तो मेरे पास तो दमड़ी नहीं है, तेरे को पता ही है। थोड़ा बहुत था जो आज ही सुबह निकल गया।
हमने नाहक रुपये दिए, उनका काम था, करते इंतजाम।
अगर हमारी टिरंक में रुपए मिलते तो हाहाकार न मच जाता। तेरे को मालूम तो है ही कि भास्कर कैसे टिरंकन की नंगा झोली लेता है। सो दे दिए नाम के।
अम्मा, मेरे नाम के जेवर है ना?
है तो सही पे, भास्कर के पास धरे हैं।
30 तोले सोना तो हो गए। मुझे दे दो, मुझे अमरावती जाने दो, मुझे निकल जाने दो अम्मा। ये हवेली मुझे खा जाएगी। मेरा दम घुटता है यहाँ के अंधेरे में।
सब भास्कर के कब्जे में है। उनके मरते ही भास्कर ने पहला काम जो करा वो ये कि उनके जनेऊ में बंधी चाबियां काट ली।
तुम्हारे जेवर कहाँ है?
भास्कर के ही पास है।
तो समझ लो कि डूब गए।
कहाँ बाप पका रही है तू? तेरा भैया ही है ना वो।
खूब पहचानती हूँ मैं अपने भाई को। खुर्राम मचाएगा कि चोरी चले गए और डकार जाएगा। तुम देखना। नहीं, तुम कल ही मेरा सोना दिलवा दो।
रस्म पूरी होते ही भाई भाई बैठेंगे ही आपने सामने, तब अपने हक का मांग लेना।
नहीं, तुम कहो पहले। कल ही।
नहीं, कल नहीं, तेरे ही हो जाए उसके बाद।
तुम जन्म भर भीगी बिल्ली बनी रहना।
इस दफे नहीं, देख लेना चाहे। तेरा भला होता होए तो हम तेरी खातिर लड़ेंगे उनसे। इतने सोने का तू क्या करेगी? बेचेगी?
हाँ।
नहीं, मैं ठहरी अनाड़िन से पूछती हूँ, सच में बेचेगी?
रुपया बैंक में रखूंगी, 50-60 हजार से क्या कम मिलेंगे। उसके ब्याज के बल पर मैं अपना खर्चा चला लूंगी, एक आध छोटी मोटी नौकरी कर ढूंढ लूंगी, ट्यूशन करूंगी, कुछ ना कुछ करूंगी ही। तुम मेरे संग रहना।
कितना पुराना सोना है, अपने घराने की लाज है बेटी।
बीए पास करते ही नौकरी लग जाएगी। मुझे नौकरी लगते ही तुम ये गांव, ये हवेली सब छोड़ के मेरे यहाँ आ जाना। सच कहती हूँ अम्मा, मेरी कोई हौस नहीं रही, ना घर द्वार ना रुपया टका। हम आजाद होंगे। तुम 70 की होने को आई, आज भी जुटी रहती हो। कब तलक जलती आंखों में चूल्हा फूंकती रहोगी?
जब तलक हाथ पांव हिलते हैं करना ही पड़ेगा।
नौकरी लगते ही जितना बेचा है उतना सोना ला दूंगी मैं, फिर शौक से पहनाना अपनी बहुओं को। हर बहू के गले में सोने का बट्टा लटकाना।
कितने दिनों बाद हंसी खिली है तेरे पे। बेच देंगे सुनना, कितने पुराना जाने कौन जमाने के गहने हैं, दादी पर दादी के जमाने के गहने। हमारे खानदान ने जमीनें बेची, पर स्त्री धन को कभी नहीं छुआ। सुनना सिर्फ रुपया नहीं होता है बेटी, एक पीढ़ी से दूसरी पीढ़ी, दूसरी से तीसरी, ऐसे नाता जुड़ा होता है अपने पुरखन के संग। जब जब मैंने पहनी तो लगा जाने कितनी जनियन के हाथन ने, गले ने हमसे पहले छुआ होएगा इन्हें। सब जनी अपने इर्द गिर्द ठाड़ी होएंगी, देख रही होएंगी खुश होएंगे। जब पहली दफे इस हवेली में प्रवेश करा तो यही दादी जी को देखा हमने। ओए होए, कैसी लक्ष्मी की नाई जगमगाई रही थी, एक एक गहने की बाबत बताई रही थी, कब गढ़ा, कौन सा गढ़ा। पर तेरे हक का जो होएगा सो देऊंगी, जो चाहे हो जाए, फिर भी देऊंगी। अंधेरा, अब शैया घर में उजाला, भास्कर खर्राटे भर रहा है। भाभी अचानक चौंक पड़ती है, उठकर बैठ जाती है।
सुनो, जरा बाहर जाके तो देखो, चंदू भैया कितने कराए रहा है।
खाए कराएते हैं, हमारा बाप नहीं मरा।
उनके पांव में चोट आई है, हरारत हो सकती है। दुनिया भरे का ईंधन कुठारे में लगाया, इतना सा रखने को कहा था, तो भी कल ही डॉक्टर को दिखाना, कहीं सेप्टम वेस्टम ना हो जाए।
अरे का है, क्या खुद होके नहीं जा सकता है, बच्चा है का।
अरे जब तलक वो मरा डॉक्टर पैसा नहीं रखवा लेता, तब तलक हाथ नहीं लगाता निर्दयी। तुम चाहे देश पांडे हो चाहे कोई हो।
हाँ, देखेंगे देखेंगे।
अपन सब में जेठे हैं, सो जेठापन निभाना ही पड़ेगा, सबकी देखभाल करनी पड़ेगी। नहीं, पूरा पड़ोस वाले क्या कहेंगे। हम तो अपनी तरफ से यही कोशिश करते हैं कि कोई तुम पे उंगली ना उठाए।
सोने दो अब।
और तेरे से निपटते ही जिसके हक का जो होए सो दे डालना।
का दे डालना?
हुज्जतबाजी देखी ना, लड़के बच्चन के सामने नाहक तमाशा मचा। हमारे बाद हमारे बच्चन के वो ही हित है, दे ही देना।
दे ही देना मानी का दे देना?
हिस्सा, जो जिसका होए मुक्ति मिले।
12 एकड़ की हिस्से बांट करके बचेगा का जो खा पाओगी?
जमीन की नहीं कही, दूसरे घरन में नजर डाल। हमारे आदमी बहुत ही भले हैं, अंजलि भी नेक लड़की है। याद है पिछली दफे आई थी तो रंजू को स्कर्ट का कपड़ा दे गई थी। उसे का बताते कि यहाँ गावड़े में स्कर्ट पहन के नंगी टांगे नहीं चल सकते, सो कपड़ा रख लिया था। पहलाई ना देने को बाद में उसी के तकिए बनाए।
नंबरी लुतरी है वो।
नहीं है जी, है कौन वाली, मगर कभी नहीं कहा कि मेरा है सो देव। बस एक ही दोष है, उसे लोगों से घिन है। सोई सुधीर भैया इसी से जेवर नहीं ले गए कि वहां बंबई में कौन पहनता है। पे उस वक्त तात्या जी जिंदे थे, तब की बात और थी, अब की और है।
तुम मेरे को अकल मत सिखाओ।
कल कुछ ऐसा वैसा हो जाए तो अपन काहे जोखम उठाए, या बंक ना फंक। एक वही तिजोरी है ले देखे, सो राजा रामचंद्र जी के जमाने की। चोर एक झटके में खोल देगा। हंसते काहे हो?
तकिए के नीचे से एक डब्बा निकालता है और उसे दिखाता है।
लेओ।
हाय, ये
कैसी उजभक हो जी तुम।
जहां की चीज है वही रखते हो, सच्ची।
देखो, इसमें सबका हिस्सा है, अम्मा, प्रभा, चंदू, सुधीर, सबका। और ये सब मैं सुधीर को दिखाने वाला नहीं हूं।
कहा वो जानते नहीं है कि किसका कितना हिस्सा है।
अगर कह देवे कि तात्या जी ने अपने हाथों बेच दिए तो क्या कर लेगा। परसों ही हमने ठाकुर घरे में ला के रख दिया था ये डिब्बा। 13 दिन बाद जब तिजोरी खोलेंगे तब देखना बेटा।
कोई ने देखा हो तो?
रंजू ने पूछा क्या है, वो डांट पिलाई। तकिए के नीचे छिपा के सोते हैं।
ये अच्छी बात नहीं है, हमें कोई की हाय नहीं चाहिए।
अंत में यही काम आएगा, तुम्हारे लाडले देवर काम नहीं आएंगे।
डब्बा खोल के
देखो, पहन के देखो, देखे कैसी दिखती हो।
अभी गमी चल रही है।
हाय रे हाय, तू भी एक ही निकली है ससुर की गमी मनाने वाली।
डब्बे में से मुट्ठी भर घेरी निकालकर उसके सामने धरता है। भाभी की आंख नहीं ठहर पाती।
ये चंद्रहास 30 तोले का, पहनो।
भाभी एक एक अलंकार पहनती है। ये दृश्य बहुत धीमे धीमे चलता है। भाभी पर जैसे टोना पड़ दिया हो।
ये पचलड़ी मोहन माला 15 तोले की, चंदन हार 15 तोला, पुतली हार 20 तोला, गुलबंद 5 तोला, ये सिकड़ी 5 तोला, ये टीका 8 तोला, ये बाग 10 तोला, तोड़े 20 तोला, जड़वा कड़ा 20 तोला, गुजरी तोड़े 20 तोला, कंगन 20 तोला, नथ, अरे जरा हीरा मानिक तो देखो, नजर नहीं ठहरती है। ये गुलाब फूल, बेंदी, चेने, 3 अंगूठियां, ये देखो, ये हीरे की, ये पन्ने की, और ये 9 रतन अंगूठी।
भाभी अब तक गहनों से मणि दिखाई देने लगती है, परंतु उसका व्यक्तित्व आर पार बदल चुका है। एकदम तेजस्विनी, अलिप, गंभीर, कालातीत, नारी लावण्य की मूर्ति जान पड़ती है।
लखों की मालकिन दिख रही हो सच्ची में।
वो मंत्राभिषेक सी उठती है, आईने के सामने जाती है, बड़ी देर तक अपने को देखती रहती है, जैसे उस पर जादू का असर हो चुका हो।
सच्ची ऐसा लग रहा है कि जैसे देश पांडे घराने की पुरखे ने मेरे आसपास खड़ी हुए। दादी जी की सास, दादी, अम्मा, सब जनियन का दुलार छू रहा हुए मेरे बदन को। कितियन ने इन्हें पहना होगा, जतन से धरा होगा। जाने कौन कौन के हाथ, कौन कौन के गले इनसे लगे होंगे। कल मेरे पराग की दुल्हन इन्हें पहनेगी, उसे भी ऐसा ही लगेगा। ऐसा ही जाने की मेरा बरस। ब्याह करके पहली दफा आई थी मैं इस हवेली में, तब अम्मा कैसी जगमगाई रही थी, बिजली की नाई। बताई रही थी ये जेवर कौन का है, कब बनवाया था। सच्ची मैं उन सब जनियन की कतार की एक भागमान कड़ी हूं।
का जादू हो गया तुम पे।
भाभी लंबी सांस लेती है, एक एक आभूषण धीमे धीमे उतार कर डब्बे में रखती है, उसे पक्का बंद करती है और भास्कर को थमाती है।
ठाकुर जी के पास रखते हो।
भास्कर अवाक।
और कल सुबह होते ही जिस तिसका जो होए दे डालो।
भास्कर डब्बे को ठाकुर घरे में रखकर लौटता है। भाभी के बदन पर छत से धूल गिरती है। धीरे धीरे अंधेरा, सिर्फ एप्रन पर उजाला, जादू भरा। दादी गठरी बनी बैठी है। दादी, वेंकटेश, अरे वेंकटेश, यहाँ तला काय को ले आया बप्पा मेरे को। का बच्चन की नाई खेलता है मेरे संग, खिल्ली उड़ाता है का बुढ़िया की। जी भीती उकसाई गया रे, बगत काटे नहीं कटता बप्पा। अब कितने दिन जिंदी रौन है रे, हंसता काई को। मेरा तो जी घबरा रहा है बप्पा, लगे कि यहाँ कुछ बिगड़ गया है रे। देश पांडे का घर ठीक तरह नहीं चल रहा है। रात भर चूहे सताते हैं, घर भर दौड़ लगाते हैं, पूरी हवेली पोली हो गई है। कोई बिल भी नहीं पूरता बप्पा। मैं कहाँ करूं, कहाँ मेरू। बहुएं आ गई, न बहुएं आ गई, पोती पोते आ गए। अब तू मेरे को पौधा ही दे रे। सब देख लिया, सब भोग लिया, कुछ बाकी नहीं रहा। हंसता काहे रे, का बप्पा। Translated by Acharya Vasandev, and as you have realized, this is in Bundelkhandi. The women speak in Bundelkhandi. Well, she's the only one who doesn't. All of them speak in that dialect. So it was very difficult to prepare, but it was great fun. Thank you.
You're joining us for dinner. It's busy.
मेरे नोट्स थे यार।
Okay.
तो हाँ, ये नाटक जब तक पढ़ा नहीं गया था तो ऐसे लग रहा था कि महेश एल कुंजवार नाटककार नहीं है, सिर्फ निबंधकार हैं। और मुझे लगता है ये अशोक जी की कोई वो थी चाल कि हम भूल जाएं ये। पर हम रंगमंच वाले तो महेश जी को कब से सिर्फ नाटककार के तौर पे देखते रहे हैं और बड़े इंतज़ार के संग देखते रहते हैं कि नया नाटक कब आएगा और कैसा होगा और कब खेलने का मौका मिलेगा। पर सबसे पहले जैसा कि मुझे इसके इंट्रोडक्शन लिखने का मौका मिला तो फिर से एक बार उन नाटकों को पढ़ा। एक तो ये जो कलेक्शन है मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि हिंदी में निकला, और ये तो नहीं कहेंगे कि बेस्ट नाटक हैं महेश एल कुंचवार के, पर बड़े रिप्रेजेंटेटिव नाटकों का कलेक्शन है। एक पूरी जर्नी, उनका पहला नाटक करीब करीब से लेके आखिर तक के नाटकों की एक पूरी प्रक्रिया हमको हमारे सामने आती है। तो सरबजीत जी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद कि उन्होंने ये पहल की और अब हिंदी के रंगकर्मियों के लिए ये अवेलेबल है। पर जैसा मैंने इसमें भी लिखा कि मैं जब से महेश को जानती हूँ और ये पता चला इनसे एक बार बात करके कि इन्होंने अपना लेखन सीधे नाटक लिखने से शुरू किया, तो ये बहुत अचंभे की चीज़ लगी। हमने अभी तक जितने भी नाटककारों को जाना है, कोई पहले कवि था, कोई कहानीकार था, कोई उपन्यासकार था, कोई जर्नलिस्ट था, पर ये मेरे ख्याल से, मुझे नहीं मालूम, मेरी जानकारी लिमिटेड है इस बारे में, पर पहले ऐसे व्यक्ति होंगे जिन्होंने सीधे नाटक लिखा। तो एक तो ये समझ में आता है कि महाराष्ट्र की नाटक की रंगमंच की परंपरा इतनी समृद्ध है कि लोगों का एक उसमें पहले से शौक होता है। पर मैं महेश जी से ज़रूर इस के बारे में पूछना चाहूँगी कि ये कैसे हुआ कि आपने सीधे नाटक लिखना शुरू किया।
थोड़ा हिंदी थोड़ा अंग्रेजी, क्योंकि नागपुरी हिंदी है मेरी। वैसे नागपुर तो बायलिंगुअल है, आई मीन हिंदी बोल लेते हैं, पर आज दिल्ली में हूँ, सो आई हैव टू बी केयरफुल।
दिल्ली तो नॉन लिंगुअल ठीक से नहीं बोलता।
No, that way Nagpur is still bilingual, you know. The moment we go out of our houses, even to Marathis usually talk to each other in Hindi. मध्य प्रदेश की राजधानी था नागपुर 1960 तक. So we are closer to Bhopal than to Pune.
56.
56? No, 59. To be exact. Oh,
State reorganization.
maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, how I became a playwright, I don't know. I just stumbled into it. Because, and I started writing very late when I was about 28, you know. Till that time, I didn't even know that I would ever write. I read a lot, of course. And my upbringing was different. In my house, theatre was never even mentioned. It was a very austere house. My father and mother were Gandhians, and although quite wealthy, we were living a very Spartan life. But my particular life was filled with music and Sanskrit grooming. You know, my father started teaching me Sanskrit when I was about 4.5. It began with Bhagavad Gita, and when I was 8, he started Panini's grammar, Ashtadhyayi. This went on for 12 years. I didn't live with them. In fact, I was brought up by my uncle and aunt in Yavatmal. But during vacations, I used to visit my parents. 2 months of, 1 month of Diwali and 3 months of the summer vacations. So my father had a great time tormenting me for those 4 months. You know, he would wake me up at 4 o'clock, 4:30, and start teaching me Sanskrit and classical music. My brother was a trained vocalist. My sister also was a trained vocalist, although they never performed because they were not allowed to. Zamindar ki family. You don't earn, you sing for yourself, like that, whatever. And I won't go deep into all the details. And I said I had become a sort of semi-urbanized. Yavatmal was not a very big place, but urbanized. When I came to Nagpur, I realized that there is a large world outside which I was not familiar with. You know, because Morris College at that time, Habib Tanvir was in the same college, you know, Ashok Kumar. I lived in the same hostel also. And it was a fashionable college, all Anglo-Indian, Parsi students, and very anglicized atmosphere, and I was a complete dropout, and wanted to be a dropout. So I had a choice, either to go back to Sirpur and do Khetiwadi, or pick up. Fortunately, I had wonderful friends and very good teachers also, so they started grooming me gradually. But by that time I had decided that I will do nothing in my life. I had nothing to do, you know. I just will relax. I loved reading and that was more than enough. I had a cushy job. I'll borrow books from the library. I don't have to buy them. Who had that kind of money, you know, buying books all the time. And I was very happy. This is all that I wanted to do. Read, travel a little bit, listen to music, sing occasionally. What more do you want in life? Then a friend of mine and I went to see some film, some Hindi film, and we didn't get tickets. So on our way back, he said, there is a play on, let's go and see it. I said, what kind of play? I had seen only 2 plays by that time. That way I am not a Maharashtrian. I mean, Pune boys are absolutely, you know, they have those genes in them, no, drama का. मुझ में ऐसा नहीं है. गाना या तो languages. So is अरे तेंदुलकर साहब का प्ले, so who's Tendulkar? Vijay Tendulkar, yaar, come on, Dr. Lagu and Vijay Mehta. She was Jayant at that time. I said, I don't know. Anyway, let's go. I went in and within 10 minutes I didn't know what was happening, you know. I was completely mesmerized. Completely mesmerized. This was totally new. Because till that time I had seen only 2 plays. One was Saubhadra and another was Man Apman. And in Saubhadra, Rukmini was about 65 something, a bulky Rukmini. And Sri Krishna was something like 70. His dentures were coming out while singing. So I said, well, it's not my cup of tea. But when I saw this play, I suddenly realized that, well, this is something, you know, it's absolutely magical. This is pure magic. I didn't know what was happening to me. So I decided to go the next day and see that play again. The next day I was rather, you know, alert and cautious and watching, because on the first day when I saw Dr. Lagu Vijay standing in this corner, within seconds, I said, when did they come into that corner, you know? When was that happening? The next day I was very careful. I was watching every single move. I said, oh my God, there is a great organization, there is a great thinking on the part of the director, on the part of the actors. And when I talked to Tendulkar after some time about that, he said, no, on the part of playwright also, he said. Which I realized soon when I started writing. So I came home, I said, well, it doesn't seem very difficult. I think I should write something, you know. Maja aa jayega. So I wrote 1 act. And my friend, she is a poet, Prabha Ganorkar. She read it and she said, sounds okay to me, rather new. I will take it to Bombay, show it to Satyakatha, which was the most prestigious magazine at that time. I didn't know Satyakatha because I was a student of English literature, and because my English was bad, I was reading English all the time to improve my English, you know. During those 10-12 years, I didn't read anything Marathi. And that was a time when existentialism and Sartre and Camus were in great vogue, you know. So we used to sit in the coffee house, smoking, drinking coffee, with a copy of Being and Nothingness, without having read a single page of it, of course. Even now I read only 10 pages. So Bhagwat liked it immensely. He published it. Then he wrote me a letter saying that you are a good writer, I think. Keep it up. So I said, fine. I started writing. I wrote about 3 or 5 plays, small plays, 1 acts, long 1 acts. They were published in a matter of about 1 year. Vijaya came back from England and Bhagwat said, these are some new 1 acts. This is a new writer. I don't know who he is. He's from Nagpur. She liked them. She wrote to me saying that I want to do them. I said, go ahead, do it. I said, by that time I knew that Vijay was a name to reckon with. But I was so, what should I say, ignorant that I was being given a great chance, you know. Bhagwat was publishing me, Vijay was producing my plays, and I wrote her saying that what will be my royalty? She said there will be no royalty, but we will buy you a ticket if you come to see the plays. That's how it started. And once I got into it, I started reacting to Vijaya Bai, and I realized there is a lot more to learn, you know. because I started watching the rehearsals. And that is when my education really began. Vijay never taught me in the conventional sense of the word. There is no Guru Shishya tradition in theatre. But there are snippets of dialogue. Sometimes I would say something and she would just make a comment, and if you are clever enough, you pick up. In theatre you either learn or your own or perish. There are no teachers. So after those 5 acts, we used to keep meeting, and that is when my education began. And then Vijay migrated to commercial theatre, and we had a fight, and I felt betrayed. I said, well, this is not what we were planning to do. I don't want to do this kind of theatre. I will not write. So I stopped writing for 8 years. I wrote Party, and then I did not write for 8 years because I was not interested in the theatre. And there was no compulsion. There is one thing, when I wrote those first plays, and they were extremely, what should I say, applauded by the members of Rangayan. And the members of Rangayan were Durga Bhagavat, Vinda Karandikar, Tendulkar, all these people. 500 people, faithful ones. And that was more than enough for us. And who wanted to reach out to millions? There was no. So there was nothing at stakes. I stopped writing. They said, why don't you come to Mumbai? There are many career opportunities. And I said, what do you mean by career? I am not interested in career because I am writing today. I might not write for another 10 years. Who knows? And career means working constantly. I can't do that, sorry. Keep it up, keep abreast. Competition, manipulation, money, envy. I don't want that baggage. So I'm very happy in Nagpur. Even now, there is no place like Nagpur, because nobody knows you. And nobody knows you are a playwright. कल तो देखा था उसको, that is.
So chaliye, I got a bit of the answer that I was wanting to know. Now I would like to ask, or let's say, sort of talk about the fact कि जब आपके नाटक हम लोग पढ़ते हैं, तो मुझे, क्योंकि महाराष्ट्र के मराठी बहुत से नाटक पढ़े हैं, देखे हैं, कि बहुत शब्द बहुल नाटक हैं. मतलब they are so word oriented, particularly in Maharashtra, not in many other parts of the country necessarily. तो एक ऐसी परंपरा के नाटक का, even now, how come that you write more in silences than in words? I mean, how did
the one thing, some credit should go to Tendulkar. Tendulkar changed the theatre dialogue completely. He radicalized it. He realized what theatre language is. I mean, you have to go back to 1950, so almost 75 years ago. Today, you might find it a bit dated. I don't find it dated. In fact, it's quite economical when you write dialogue. That was one thing, but at the same time, I was written Western playwrights. And I used to be amazed at the paucity of expression, They were so terse and the dialogue was so economical. And I said, well, this is something I should do in Marathi. I mean, why are we wasting so many words? One thing, and there are certain discoveries also. Certain things where one, I think, just discovered them accidentally. Like I am given credit for creating pauses and silences in my text. Silence is not a word I use anymore because there is nothing like silence either in theatre or in our life. We will come to that later on. If at all we discuss this, we find time to it. We have to rush. And I don't tell how I discover pause because if they are giving me so much credit for it, I take it, But this, allow me to go into detail.
Yeah.
Vijay Bhai told me that, Mahesh, do you know this space, this 40 by 30 or whatever it is, do you know how you use it? Do you know that, how do you relate yourself to this space? How do you relate your character, how your characters relate to each other in this space? That is when I started understanding what space and time mean, There is something like acoustic space also. And one gradually began to understand the grammar of that. So I started writing party and I created 12 characters because I wanted to populate the entire stage with people. And then I brought some colored buttons and kept them here. And one character was blue, another character was green, like that. And lot of time in Nagpur, to play these games. So I prepared a chart and started moving those characters here, and I started compositions. I knew the director wouldn't honor my compositions; they would create their own compositions. But that was fun. That's how I began to understand what space is. When it came to time, once I was writing dialogue, and as fastly as I could, and then I was stuck. And I didn't know how to, where the dialogue was going. And I said, my God, कुछ सूझता नहीं, क्या करूं? मैं लिख दिया pause, चलो भागो यहाँ से. Pause लिख दिया, चला गया. Then I forgot because I never took it very seriously. 4-5 दिन आने के बाद मैं आया ना pause है, अब next line क्या है? लिख दो कुछ भी. Just imagine, I don't remember that. तो जहाँ पे पॉज लिया था तो उसके पहले शायद लाइन थी कि पता नहीं कहाँ मर चुका है वो आदमी. इट्स समथिंग लाइक दैट. और आफ्टर पॉज आई केम एंड आई रोट सेड, बाप रे सवेरे से कितनी बारिश हो रही है. टोटली इररिलेवेंट टू लाइन्स. आई स्टॉप्ड इवन देयर. Another 2 or 3 days I came there and I said, my God, this pause is loaded. These two seemingly irrelevant lines of dialogue can be related if the dialogue is interpreted by the director and actors according to their understanding of it. They are innocent people, actors and directors. They don't over tricks. But they will definitely say, my God, there is a pause, so there must be a meaning, and they find meaning. And yes, the dialogue does get meaning. So now, sometimes the pauses get automatically created. Sometimes you create them. It's a matter of technique. That is why my writing sounds different to you, because I have learned this in a hard way, on the job. But our observation is correct. We are if you go to a commercial theatre, there is a lot of dialogue.
Yeah. So, so that means you've been cheating us, as directors. We've been struggling with the pauses and creating all kinds of things because for you.
So you don't know how devious playwrights can be.
Yeah. Now I understand totally. But sort of that really, I had a feeling that here is a person who has a lot of faith in the actor, that the actor will really create the reality, and these words are just indicators as to what to look into. That's the sense one gets when one reads your plays, and that's something which makes it very special, because I know that in the Hindi tradition, Mohan Rakesh was the first person who really studied the dramatic word, and he wrote plays just around sounds. So, haan, nahi, acha, and there was a whole play that could be staged and it had meaning. So he was making a very conscious effort. Your journey was slightly different, but then it's again understanding the necessities of the stage. Because if you just say everything, there's nothing for the actor to do. And there is no space for imagination, there is no space for, sort of the inner complexity to come in. So it has, as directors, it has given us texts which really allow for a lot of exploration, and most of us do theatre for the purpose of exploration. I think you do too, you've been saying in some interviews, and that is something which makes it very meaningful, and that is where one relates to the plays also. When you say that you were not interested in the performances or not interested in performances in a big space, for you what was exciting was the interaction that the actor and the director had. I think a lot of us directors also have that feeling that the exciting part is the process. because that's where you're discovering. So why did you not seem interested in the result or the production or the appreciation by a large audience?
No, my earlier work was rather wordy. Garbo particularly is quite
Garbo,
wordy.
yes.
Vasana Khan tried to be economical but failed in the last two scenes. And that is when I gradually began, because I was watching a lot of theatre also, and I realized that it's a myth. I mean, people have been saying that, particularly in Maharashtra, playwright is absolutely worshipped, you know. Even Dr. Lagu, every word written by a playwright is sacrosanct, you know. He would not change a single word. And I used to have a quarrel with him. I said, come on, Nata Samrat, fine, I mean, you are a great actor, no doubt, but it can be edited, Dr. Lagu, don't you think so? So, no way. I said, there's debate between us. I personally, when I looked back, that was an 8-year period of silence. It was a fallow period, and I was looking back and I said, all those plays can be edited, you know, all of my plays I had written earlier can be edited and they would be slightly better. That is one thing. And I wanted to demolish the myth. The myth is, in Maharashtra, the playwright is the king of theatre. I don't believe that. Nor is the director. According to me, actor is the king of theatre, because actor ultimately delivers the goods. And you don't know what the actor will do on stage. You may have written something, meaning something. The actor follows all your instructions or director's instructions in the rehearsals. When you goes on the stage, he delivers it totally differently, giving it totally new meaning. What do you do? Nothing. You know the story about Sir Laurence Olivier and Ralph Richardson. They used to do Othello alternately. One day Larry will be Othello and Richardson would be Iago, like that. In one show, Larry was doing Othello and Richardson was doing Iago. Larry went to Iago and kissed him full on the mouth. He froze, Mr. Richardson, for a second. He was a professional. They continued. When they went to the green room, Ralph Richardson said, why did you do it, Larry? So I suddenly discovered that maybe Othello has this secret attraction for Iago. I said, that is fine. That is your interpretation, which is fine, but Larry said, do you want, you need rehearsal? I said, no, I don't want it. But it is unprofessional. And the play itself has acquired a totally new meaning. It became a play of a gay politics. Obviously Shakespeare didn't mean it, who knows, but he didn't mean it. Other people who produced it didn't mean it, and today suddenly this particular play has acquired this new meaning, which is alright, which is absolutely legitimate, but then the entire cast should be prepared for it. You can't fling surprises like that, but then actor can do that. And he can interpret a particular role in so many different ways, so many different performances. That is the fun of it. You leave all those things open for actors, because a particular text is done by one group, another group, and they would interpret those pauses totally differently, giving new meanings. That is the magic of theatre. Why should I take credit for the magic? Let the actors do it. They are intelligent people, starving to express
So you're
themselves.
a rare playwright who feels that space should be left. Yeah, good. The time is very little, but there are a lot of questions that were coming to mind, in the sense that you are very interested in music, and in both the way you handle content and in the way you build your content. I feel handle your content, and in the way you structure your content, one feels that the impact of music is there. For instance, in Virasat, you keep feeling कि वो राग की तरह बढ़ता है धीरे धीरे, और उसी की तरह वो द्रुत की तरफ जाता है. तो ये वाले इस और बहुत संगीत की जब ये पढ़ें हम ऐसे तो पता चलता है कि कितना असर है, और आप अपनी बातचीत में भी उसके एब्स्ट्रैक्शन की, उसकी स्पिरिचुअल जर्नी की बात करते हैं. वुड यू लाइक टू टॉक?
लय की बात तो होती है बिल्कुल. There was music in my house. I mean, my mother used to tell me that the day I was born, Navami, दशहरे के पहले दिन, I was born in the evening, and when she was in labor, ऊपर के दीवान खाने में गाना चल रहा था किसी का. There was a concert going on. So that is my association with music, whatever. But then I was groomed into music all the time, and pakka music. Not even thumri or tappa, because according to my father, they are decadent. Natya Sangeet was immature taste, only pakka gana. He was an extremely Spartan person, taste-wise also. Now this is one question I have been asking myself, and I have been talking to musicians and painters also. Suresh Talwalkar, the great percussionist, does music influence a writer in any way, in such a way that he borrows something from music, the lay or the structure of a particular piece he is working on? Nobody has really given me any conclusive answer to it. But when I think of it, particularly while writing essays, I know that music has helped me create my language. And I am not a Kirana Gharana fan, I am a Jaipur Gharana fan. Most of my plays are one acts. They are extremely properly worked out, their grammar is worked out. Sur, tal, lay, everything in position, There is no scope for indulgence. So I learned that economic from that. That is what I think now that you are asking me the question. There is no conclusive answer to this.
Yeah. And because
perfectly Besura playwright can also write extremely lyrical plays.
Yeah. And so the last question, I think everybody must be wanting to know, because we began this whole evening with your essays. And for me, it was a delight to read the essays in the Necropolis. I read them recently, full of drama and full of, sort of a lot of people have talked about those qualities. Basically, the question is that why did you shift from plays to essays?
Shifting is probably not the correct word. I started writing essays in 1990 and wrote in a particular style for about 15 years. But then I realized that they were working very well and they were popular, and I said this is the time to break the mold, because I can go on writing another 15 plays, essays like that. I am not interested in that unless I break the mold. What is the point? Because I will begin to repeat myself, one thing. But the answer is rather complicated, because even now I am not sure what I am talking about. But the whole search began with time and space. I learned time and space, the meaning of time and space in theatre, and gradually realized that our entire life, our lives are under the tyranny of time and space. And at a particular age, I also realized that we are living in a transient reality all the time, because it is a prisoner of time and space. But all realities, and we live in so many realities, the reality of my dreams, the reality of my imagination, the reality of my mundane life, the reality of painting when I am watching a painting, they are all transient. And as a human being, by that time I was touching my 60, and I realized that most artists, when I read great artists, these artists are trying to get rid of these two dimensions, because they want to reach out to that area where these dimensions collapse. that area of experience which is unnameable, which is indefinable, which cannot be explained, which is vast, which you cannot embrace in your two hands. So that kind of probe, it began to bother me a lot, and I really didn't know. I read a lot during that time. I found a Shastri who taught me Shardarshanas and all that. And I realized that as an artist, as a human being, one thing I realized, that we think that our lives are linear, This happened in 1920, this happened in 1930, 40, 50. It's never like that. All those things are with us all the time. Today's Mahesh is an accumulation of all those things that happened 85 years ago, 84 years ago. It's not a linear kind of thing. It's one thing. Today what I am is the reality. What happened is probably was a transient reality, but I am a result of that one. So as an artist, I thought, if I want to get rid of that, I cannot destroy time and space, but I can restructure it, I can create my own reality. I will play with time and space. And if I want to do that, and since I have realized that my life is not a linear thing, it's not like a river going from this point to that point. There's a constant nowness to my life. And all those nows are with me today, they are alive in my mind. So I have to destructure this reality while writing and reconstruct it. And that is when I realized that my memories are like Didar Ganchi Yakshi, that is sculptor in Patna, and everything speaks to me. I can talk to Didar Ganchi Yakshi. So Didar Ganchi Yakshi coming to Nagpur and having a cup of tea with me, and even smoking, that woman, 2nd century BC woman, is not really irrelevant, and it's quite natural because she's a part of my reality. So I bring Sartre's, Camus, Mersol, then Didar Ganchi Yakshi, my girlfriend Mandakini. They all come together and we meet on the beach in Melbourne and talk about existentialism or something else. And for me, this is much more real than all the realities we were talking about. There is a nowness about it. Memory is something, which happened and you are not connected with it. You go back to it and chew the cud of memory. I don't chew the cud of memory. It's a part of me even now. So all these memories are together and I create my now, when I am living in now. Now it sounds rather, what should I say, maybe vague, but I understood nowness during the pandemic. For about 18 months, there was nobody in the house. I was doing everything. Washing, cleaning, cooking, doing the gardening from 6 to 6 every day. And I told my, being a son of a Gandhian, I said, all right, I'll do it. It was boring, but then I said, if I have to do it, I have to enjoy it, otherwise I'll be bored because I don't know how long I have to do it. I started doing it, and when I started doing it because if I wanted to enjoy it, I had to do it carefully. And gradually I realized that I was so completely absorbed in doing whatever I was doing, even the cleaning in the bathroom was total bliss. And I suddenly realized that during that time when I am working hard at something, my mind disappears. I am full of happiness. There is total absence of any memory. There is no past, no future. I am in the now. So how do I bring this nowness in my writing? So bringing all these things together, that is the effort. How far I have succeeded is debatable. Maybe I have not, but that is the attempt. Secondly, it is like Sarabjit said, that it is autobiographical. Not necessarily. I mean, when people write autobiographies, they write about how many awards they have won and how they had a meal with the Prime Minister and how they went abroad and how there was a seminar in Princeton and all that. I am not interested in that because they are all external things that they do not touch the inner core of my being. It has nothing to do with my being. I mean, one has received as many awards as a playwright can in this country. And I realized at a particular, Kirti, all these things have to be, they come together. You cannot really analyze, They are all welded together, fused together. And I realized that, well, materially everything has come to me and not a single problem of mine has been resolved. I am still what I was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. What's happening? And I said, that has nothing to do with my inner life. My inner journey is totally different, and in that inner journey, the prime ministers and award giving institutions and Sangeet Natak, they didn't exist. What existed was Bhiva. What existed was that vocalist woman. She is around even now, she is 83 now. And these are non-entities, nobody knew them. They were born, they lived and they died. But they have given me so much, so much. I am today what I am because of these ordinary people. So, an autobiography is necessarily about, the conventional autobiographies are necessarily about the achievements. Achievement is a word which I have heard now. But then I had a great sense of gratitude for these people, ordinary people, living a very ordinary life, but they give so much to you. So this is what I wanted to celebrate. This is I wanted to talk about. And then I realized that any civilization is built by ordinary people, not by great people. Great people are thrown by ordinary people, And another small aspect which I'll tell you and then we'll stop. When you say it is autobiographical, not everything in my essays is really autobiographical in that sense of the word. Because in these lessons, Mahesh is not important. Or a particular names, they are not really important. Human beings are not important at all. It is the experience that is important. It just happened that a person called Mahesh experienced something. Mahesh is going to disappear, but the experience is a human experience. And there must be about 10 people who relate to that, maybe. So experience stays, experience lives. That's why sometimes there are certain things which are completely autobiographical, sometimes they are not. Like there is a character called Mildred in this, Now, I knew a lady who was like Mildred, very, very manipulative, toxic, that. But I saw no point in telling the world about that particular person. Why should I? So I said Mildred, because anybody who has read Of Human Bondage would immediately connect. He would know what kind of experience I am talking about. And again, I am not talking about Mildred, that I am talking about myself, how one goes through this toxic relationship. So that is more important. Experience is more important. So it's not completely autobiographical. One creates certain images, certain characters, certain situations. What is important is reorganizing your experience, not reorganizing your memories. It's not that important. One tries, I don't know how far one is successful. It hardly matters also. One keeps trying. Thank you.
But yes, I think to me, when I was reading these essays, they look more like soliloquies that you're talking to yourself and you are,
Yeah, it is a kind of soliloquy, talking to myself. But I do talk to Emily Dickinson. No, frankly, because Emily has been with me for the last 60 years at least. And I often meet these people and they are kind to me, they always respond to my questions, queries, and I find answers in them. If I have a query, I don't know what the relationship, art and life is, and I suddenly read something from Emily and said, my God, he knew this, she knew this. She says this in 4 lines. Like I was talking about artists who are in search of silence or But for me, silence is eternity. I have quoted from Emily's, exaltation is the going of an inland soul to sea, past the houses, past the headlands, into deep eternity. All artists are in search of silence. One more, since I have a captive audience, silence has two responses, Ashokji, a Western response and Indian response. And I realized this because of my father. Western artists, particularly post-war Western artists, are in a mode of negation. They negate everything. They negate life. They negate, and they are in search of silence, which would bring them some redress. And they don't find it. So, in the later part of 20th century, you probably will notice that a lot of artists committed suicide. They were in search of this silence. It is a totally nihilistic philosophy, but that is a product of the two world wars. And I was under the influence of that, and my father came to stay with me. He was a very erudite person. He knew 6 languages. He was a product of Allahabad University and didn't do anything except reading in his life because he could afford it. So he came to stay with me and said, is there anything reading material? I said, yes, being and nothingness, because I hadn't read it. I said, this is it. He said, all right. He was with me for 6 months and he read cover to cover, 6 days, 6 hours, 7 hours a day, studiously. And after he finished it, he said, how do you find this? I said, I have not read it yet. This is brilliant writing, extraordinary writing and extraordinarily unreadable. Exactly, extraordinarily brilliant and extraordinarily unreadable. I said, why are you saying unreadable? I said, because I know the answer. He has questions, I know the answers. Mahesh, they negate everything. Indians do not negate anything, we renounce. We give up, and give up contentedly. That is a great power. And giving up contentedly is the real acceptance of life. The words gradually percolated into me, and it took about 20 years for me to understand what he was saying. He was already 75 at that time. But being able to say no to many things happily, contentedly, and leave a Spartan life, I think nothing can be more beautiful, nothing can be more joyous than that. That is when I started reading the Shad Darshanas, So all that has percolated into it, I guess, I don't know, but I am still journeying. Nothing more to say.
And yes, through the plays and through the essays, we get to know more and more of Mahesh L. Kunchwar, and I think this evening has given us a real glimpse into both his work and his life and a person. So thank you.
I wanted this launch. In my entire life, my books have never been launched because my Marathi publishers are extremely orthodox. They say, what is there to talk about? Secondly, we don't launch book, we don't publish, we don't use publicity. If the book is good, the right reader will come and seek it out. So I sell about 100 copies a year of every book. That is the attitude. And I wanted this launch this time because non-Maharashtrians know me as a playwright, but nobody knows that I am writing essays, and I personally find it very gratifying. Writing essays is very gratifying. They may be failures, but they are extremely glorious failures. So I wanted my non-Marathi friends to know that I write essays also, and Sarabjit, who speaks Marathi very well, decided to translate this. So I jumped on the opportunity and said, let's launch, And then I pasted Ashok. Ashok ji, mera launch karo. And that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you.